Welcome to Latter Daily Digest. We honor creators, and today we have Lorelei K, who is an author, and we're going to talk about the name of her book pretty soon. Thanks for being on the show. There you go, award-winning author. Thanks for being on the show, and thanks, Debbie, for joining in the discussion.
Of course.
And so, let's see. We'll surprise everybody, although it's going to be in the name of the title. So yeah, just go ahead and say the name of your book.
From Mormon to Mermaid.
From Mormon to Mermaid. Now that seems like it'd be the other way around in a Disney movie, right?
Should I share briefly how that name came about?
We'll put it in there and we'll tease it. It'll happen in about 20 minutes. So you have to stay listening for 20 minutes to find out how that happened. And so, Lorelei, go ahead and tell us your, we'll say Mormon bona fides, like where you grew up, what it was like to be a young woman in Mormon.
I'll open my book.
That's right.
Let's see. Well, I was born at BYU in Provo when my parents were both students at BYU, of course. I lived in Price, Utah for a while and then moved to Salt Lake, and where we were always said in our evening prayers, we were thankful to be living under the shadow of the temple. That and help us clean the house, but I don't know if either one of those helped a whole lot. But being born in Provo, Utah, where my parents were students at BYU, I'm just going to skim a little bit from my book, this book right here.
There you go.
There you go. I did that too fast.
Go ahead. Actually, I'm going to put you on full screen and show us the book all the way so that people can see it.
There we go.
Really good. Yeah. Get it up there right in the middle.
And you notice right here, it says the original publisher gave an award of literary excellence. I have to point that out. And it's gotten several awards since then. We can talk about the multitudinous awards later. But I say in the book, my Mormon heritage runs deep. More than 150 winters ago, my foremothers yoked themselves to the upstart new faith and bravely trudged behind pioneer husbands on the long trek across wind and snow-driven plains to the valley of the Great Salt Lake. Now, let's see, I'm not going to read all this. I'm so Mormon, polygamists practically fall off our family tree, from long ago great grandparents to present-day cousins. I know, the stories I've heard from some of those people.
Have you ever tried to figure out how many cousins you have?
No, we used to, be friends and associate with some of them. And
any reunions?
Well, yes, but they were the Mormon reunions, not the polygamous people weren't.
Right, that's right.
A part of that. I said, growing up in the complicated doctrinal net called Mormonism, my parents taught me the basics. I was a special spirit in heaven before I was born on earth. God sent me to a faithful family of Latter-day Saints during these last days. Church leaders heaped on the rest. The Garden of Eden was in Jackson County, Missouri. Of course, you knew that. A group of Jews sailed from Jerusalem to become American Indians, and the Mormon men's ultimate reward is to become a god. Damn good news for the men, right? This God status entitles them to have many wives in heaven, just like their Mormon God. But since I'm a woman, my scenario is a little different. If I'm very good and obey all the rules, my ultimate reward will be to become one of those wives as part of a goddess harem. Surely that's heritage enough without being loosely related to a fish, because I'm related to, I was named after the Lorelei.
There you go.
The mermaid on the River Rhine. So.
Yeah, so tell us about your dad's experience then.
Oh, well, when my dad was in World War II, stationed in Italy, he heard the story of the Lorelei. And he just thought it was a real pretty name. And after he came home, 9 months later, they named me Lorelei. And at first, when I was little, I was always embarrassed. I thought, named after a half-naked woman, being a good little Mormon child, I really was embarrassed. I didn't like it, but
I guess people named Eve are named after a full naked woman.
Oh, you're right. Why didn't I ever think they should be embarrassed? I don't know. I just took it personally. But later on, I decided to embrace my mermaid heritage. And now in the Writers Club, they all know me as the mermaid because of the book and because I have mermaid everything at my house. And
That's right. Do you remember being a little girl in church? Do you remember what your church experience was like?
Oh, yeah. Giving, one of my biggest memories, I was going to give a 2.5 minute talk. Remember when they used to do that in sacrament meeting?
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were really big on preparation, and my dad didn't want to be a good orator. And I practice and practice and practice in front of the mirror and with expression, practice all week. And we're going to church, and my parents said, my mom says, well, do you want your talk? No, I know it. I knew it backwards and forward. I didn't need it written down until I got up in the pulpit and looked at all those people. My mind went blank. And I looked at my mom to try to have her help me because she had it memorized too. And she realized that that's what I was doing. So she started trying to mouth the words to me, and I tried to mouth them back. Oh, I cried afterwards. I said, I'm never giving another talk again.
That's right. And at the time, we always thought the leaders during General Conference would just talk off the cuff. We didn't know that they had teleprompters and all kinds of, and that they practice as well for a long time, and sometimes even have ghostwriters help them, write their.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Yeah, and so
they're too old to.
We just assume that's what you're supposed to do, right? Memorize your talk and just be able to just deliver it. But everybody's usually prepared.
Yeah, I do think that's one reason I hesitate reading from this, because I really think to quote my book, I should have it memorized and present it, because that's how my dad would have had me do it. He took a lot of responsibility for our growth in giving talks and things like that.
Did you ever wonder why girls weren't allowed to pass a sacrament or anything like that, or were you pretty much knew your role?
No, I didn't wonder why only my brother would go on a mission and I wouldn't. No, I didn't. That never bothered me. It was just, encompassed by the belief that, in fact, I didn't really have any problems or difficulty with the role of a Mormon woman until I was a single Mormon woman after being married. When I was married, even though my husband was inactive, I don't know, I guess the word is respected, because for one thing, I was, of course, praying night and day that his heart would be touched. You know how that goes. But once I became a divorced Mormon woman, that's when I had some very interesting, which I talk about in the book, experiences showing how the doctrine in the Mormon church can be used by men, not all men, but the doctrine can be used to subjugate women and to do just dastardly things. Except
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you have that experience, Debbie, when you were going through your let's see, first divorce after that?
I would say so, because it is definitely in the culture of women answering to their husbands in a subservient way, because he is the leader and the spiritual leader of the house, not just the dominant figure. So it was not unheard of to see that in a ward or with friends, families, or cousins,
And then when you get a divorce, you're kind of like a second class.
Yeah.
Or third class status, because women already are second or third, maybe fourth class status.
That's why I was really shocked when the bishop called me to teach gospel doctrine, because I was a divorced woman at that point, and I really felt, oh, boy, we're special.
Right, but and going back though, I just thought of it. People don't realize that the Women's Relief Society was actually run by women during our childhood. I remember that there would be ward bazaars so that the women could raise money for things.
I remember those.
And where did you live when you were like a teenage girl?
Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City. So they had those. They had ward bazaars and things like that, fundraisers.
Oh, yeah, the women would spend all year doing quilts and crocheting things. I mean, what? They got pennies on the for the hours that they spend on these things. What a sad way to earn money. What a sad way, especially when now billions. How many billions, Gene, are in the Get Ready for Christ Return Fund?
Sure. There's 150 billion that people estimate, and then another $100 billion worth of land and other property.
Yeah, but the sacrifice of spending time when they had all these kids, and they're supposed to be doing all these things. But yeah, and then you'd have to go buy it from your neighbors, and none of us had. It was a poor ward.
And did you do road shows?
Oh, absolutely. When I was here in California, in fact, I was called to lead a road show, which meant, of course, you write the road show, you direct the road show. I had 3 little kids, but I wrote them into the road show. Yeah, in the traveling road shows. Those were kind of cool. Except my one memory when back in Salt Lake City as a teenager, the theme song was, "It's a gentleman's world that we live in, whether we are aware of it or not. Da 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 da. For we know it's a gentleman's world." That was the theme. And we were all dancing and hooking arms and prancing around the stage, singing away, "It's a gentleman's world." So that's my biggest memory of roadshow as a teenager.
Wow. Yeah. And I guess the Salt Lake Roadshow, you'd only pack up and drive a few blocks away to set up your next part show.
Yeah, it would be a lot closer. But
in California, our buildings were about 2.5 to 4 miles apart from each other. Yeah. So it was
But for the cause, you do it.
Yeah. So it was quite an experience to pack up and drive to the next ward building, hoping to make it on time.
And then the competitions for who would win. And then they did away with that by the time I was here in California and wrote the road show. But, which ward would win. And it was a big competition. I remember our ward didn't win, and the other kids in another ward were making fun of us. And, so I'm sure that's...
Here in the San Francisco Bay Area, we also did Oakland Temple Pageant. Was there anything like that in Salt Lake where...
Golden Green Ball.
Golden Green Balls.
Golden Green Ball, those women, and it was beautiful to see in the gowns and the dancing. Yeah, the Golden Green Ball.
There you go.
That was pretty amazing.
Were you ever in M-Min and Gleaners, or was that disappearing by the time you hit your young adulthood?
The closest memory to that I would have, we were all went to the Tabernacle. We did this big presentation at the Tabernacle. Oh, it was for the 24th of Pioneer Day, July 24th. And we all had matching dresses. They were kind of a peach color that, of course, we all, our parents had to make for us. And,
future trad wives.
Yeah. And so we remember flowing through the aisles and going up and singing the songs, and it was, there are good experiences of learning to speak. By the time I became a gospel doctrine teacher, I think I had a good background, not just in the doctrine of the Book of Mormon and Doctrine and Covenants, of course, New and Old Testament, no, but also of speaking. And I feel I was able to do a really good job, and I feel that has been an asset because of my experience in the church.
And your dad experienced studying the gospel and doing things. What things did he do?
Well, he wrote a book on the Book of Mormon, a bestseller, obviously. Yeah, back then, before Amazon or anything, he bought some kind of they actually printed it in the house and bound it, and I think I have it right here.
What's the title of your father's book?
Omni, the Key to the Book of Mormon. I sometimes see copies of it on Amazon. J.D. Dobson is my brother. And my mother and sister did all the artwork, and I wrote a piece in it, a prayer of Nephi or something. It was a family project. It was a monumental project. But my dad believed that the Book of Omni really holds the key to understand the Book of Mormon.
Would he go up and down the valley and give firesides and presentations on it and sell books and sign them?
Oh, no. You'd have to have amount of prestige to do things like that. you have to be prestigious. You have to be important to get,
Like a
And
general
he
authority
was
70.
a very good man that happened to be a real scholar. Of course, we loved him a lot. He had lots of wonderful qualities, but he was kind of reserved, kind of stood in the background. Let my mother be the more flamboyant one, and he, didn't have a lot of, didn't have prestige. You don't have, and money's part to do with that too, because let's be honest, if you don't have a lot of money, you don't have the prestige. No, they didn't do anything like that.
So anyhow, where'd you get married first?
First got married in Salt Lake City when my to-be husband, let's see, we dated a long time in high school, broke up because, of course, he wasn't a Mormon. I could not marry any out of the church. So then when I was at BYU and he was in the Air Force, I guess it was, he got baptized. And so we decided to get married. We we were dating and we were going to wait to get married because he volunteered to go to Vietnam. And I don't know why he volunteered for that place, but.
Patriotic.
Huh?
Patriotic. He was a patriot.
That would be one way to look at it. I don't know that was the reason, but it could be. I think it was more an emotional, I don't know. And so we waited. It was really tough because, sexual sin is next to murder. We couldn't, oh my gosh, we couldn't, we really had to be careful. It was really hard because, when you're young, hormones are so strong. And so we made it, and he left. He was going to he was going overseas, and it'd be a year, and we made it, not without too much problem. Just
third base, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the Air Force gave him a week's leave at Christmas. We thought, we can't do this another week. We can't do this another week. We will fail. We'll go to hell. So we decided to get married.
So you got married civilly?
Yep, in the cultural hall of the church. It was Christmas, of course, the 25th. My birthday is December 18th. We were married December 23rd, so we had everything in 1 week. And Christmas trees in the cultural hall. His parents his family's all Catholic. They were there, and of course, when the bishop married us, he made it very clear that this is not the real wedding. They're not really married. That will take place only in the temple, which is the only place that God really recognizes marriage. That was a tacky thing to do when the parents of the groom are not members, but that was what they were instructed to do. You have to preach. You have to.
And so that meant you had to wait a year to go to the temple.
Well, it was longer than that. When he came home, I got a phone call from San Francisco, where he flew in first, and says, "I don't want to be married." So, oh, jeez. And that basically lasted the whole 25 years of our marriage. He didn't want to be married. So he certainly didn't want to go to the temple. But we did, a few years later, go to the temple. Yeah, it was a real problem when he didn't want to be married. And then when he came home, since we got married so we could have sex, he came home. I rented the honeymoon suite at the Ramada Inn. He was not interested. He was so shut down and so, yeah, I had to seduce him.
Wow.
And that's why we got married. It was quite a disappointment.
Wow. And so you did get sealed in the temple, though, eventually?
We did.
Was that in the Salt Lake?
No, that was in Santa Monica. We were when he came back from Vietnam. He was stationed first at George, which was here in high desert, and we drove through the high desert. Well, we're not living here, so we moved to San Bernardino, and then all years later we moved back up here. But his parents, he kept saying he didn't want to be sealed because then his parents couldn't be there, and my parents would be. So I told my parents, Dad, and they says, well, then we won't be there either. They didn't want to stand in the way, so none of our parents were there. Don't let the dog in. Oh, I'm sorry.
Were you prompted to give the final decision maker? Was it because you already had children and you felt pressured to get sealed, or was it just kind of like we need to progress or try to work
it was
together?
horrible to have not been married in the temple. I mean, you're not. Oh yeah, it was, and then to have to admit to people, like
Stigma.
the photographer at the wedding, Blair photo, yeah, and picking out the album, and she said, "Well, do you want a temple album?" I had to blur out the whole story of why we. No, we're not getting married in the temple because what we're going to. I mean, it was the thing to do, and then of course to have children, and that didn't happen. That didn't happen, and that it was 10 years, and that was really a struggle. Especially, I was always generally with the music and with the primary children. I directed all their songs, so on Mother's Day and everything on the program, I'd be up in the front of the congregation leading the kids, and then they say, "Well, all the mothers stand up." You know, I still get choked up thinking how tough that was, because you're not worthy. If God won't send you spirits, what is wrong with me? What aren't I doing right? How can I do more to earn that blessing? Because there's a ordinance upon which all blessings are predicated. So what was I doing wrong?
That is such a stigma for women in the church, even to this day, I feel. And I can even get choked up thinking about it because I've also stood in church and been like,
and we know it might not even be your problem. Your husband might not be firing enough bullets.
Yeah. It was tough. And then of course when we had two and my husband didn't want any more, and two.
Not doing your job. You're not doing your Mormon job unless you have a dozen.
Mormon women, really all we were popcorn. You pop out the kids, and if the girl colonels, they pop out the kids. But that's what our purpose was, to be eternal popcorn and pop out those kids. So obviously I still wasn't, and then my husband, wasn't active, and he quit wearing the garments after we went to the temple, and it was all up to me. If I only, I was told that in blessings, if only be the best wife you can be. So pray that the Lord will touch his heart. That will happen.
Yeah.
It didn't, by the way. What touched his something else for other women, but.
Was that mostly, did you find that advice also when you were counseling with your bishop of having these struggles? Was it just the advice to be more faithful, pray more, do more, and eventually he would come around because of your enduring faith?
Well, yes, if I was righteous enough and my prayers were fervent enough, then God would touch his heart. So where's agency in that? Where's his agency? But I didn't think of that. Then I just tried to be the best wife I could be. But you always think, oh, I did that wrong, and I'm not really studying enough scriptures. And I was primary president and had 2 kids, but you can't do enough. You just can't do enough.
And so 25 years later, you had a divorce.
Yeah.
And then
long story short, yeah.
Yeah. And then you so now you're a single woman in the church.
No, then yes, yeah.
At the time.
Yeah, single, yeah. I was married for almost 25 years. Then I was single for almost 25 years. So the next 25 years now. So that now I'm married again.
And how long is your second marriage been now?
We just celebrated our 7th anniversary. We were married July 7th, 7/7/17, when we were both 70. And we were married by, are you ready? We were married by a mermaid. We had a mermaid officiate our wedding.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because that was in California, where we allow mermaids to officiate, right?
Well, she was a registered. I didn't know that she was a minister. I met her at some of these, what do you call them? Events where they have, all the people in the carnival, the the tents and the food and everything. And I talked to her about, she came and appeared at some of my book signings for my book because she used to be Mormon. And so she came and did book signings. And then by then, my then honey, my now husband, we were thinking about getting married, but we were just going to have it be small. You're not going to make a big deal out of it. We were just going to have two witnesses and just do it like that. I wasn't even going to necessarily tell my kids because, So then one day at a book signing, her husband happened to say that she was a minister. I said, "What? You mean she could marry us?" Because we were looking for someone. I said, "Well," and that changed everything. So then my curled kid, my one daughter, who's we call her the chef. She loves cooking. She's excellent. She gets the Italian cooking gene from her dad. And she came down from Utah, her suitcase full of roasts and beef and everything. And the other two were here, one from Texas and one from Nevada. And I invited, about 40 people. And so it wasn't huge, but mostly people from the Writers Club and then from my husband's, from his Jeeping Club. And it was in the backyard. And her husband carried the merman out. And, so she was kind of more the star than the bride, which was fine with me because it was so fun to have a mermaid marry us. I didn't need to be the bride. Be the big star. It was. So people still talk about that. It's a good opening sometimes to talk about the book too, because mermaid appreciate it.
Sure. And we have to go back now to how long ago did you start to think that you might write a book, and what led up to that?
Well, when I was single. Once I had left the church, when I first was single, I was still fervently a member, a believer until my bishop called me to teach gospel doctrine. And like anything the bishop ever asked me to do, 100%, I am there. I spent 10 hours a week preparing my lessons. And I learned way too much. Book of Mormon, I knew that back and forwards. It shocks me how many people in church haven't even read the Book of Mormon. I was just shocked because, that was our... but then after I learned way too much and finally was released from teaching gospel doctrine, I don't know how I got away with teaching some of the things I did because my mission was to kind of expand the mind a bit.
You wanted people to really learn something after 40 years of having the same lessons. You wanted to expand their minds.
Well, when you read the manual will say things like this one time. Make sure the members understand that this scripture means this. Well, obviously, it was like the scripture is the Father and not the Son. And I thought, well, obviously it's not. But when my brain was, why? Why do they want me to teach that? Why did they make that point when it's obviously wrong? And then I realized that the reason they had to make the point is because if you don't say that, then Jehovah is the God of the Old Testament, and that's what you teach. But it's right there in the scripture. So anyway, ended up leaving the church.
About what year did you leave the church? Did you stop believing in the truth claims? We'll say.
I had my membership taken off in 2002. But
so you requested your membership to be taken off.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want. No, it was my decision, and I wanted to live life the way I wanted to, which was quite different than the way I had, and I didn't do much. How do I say? Exploring, or didn't have a lot of fun as a teenager. So I did that in my 50s. And I went down to the resort on a lot of weekends, and a lot of us would be in the pool, and meeting and talking. And I got a kind of a reputation for telling all these weird stories about Mormons. And people were just eating it up. Now, this was before you could find it out online. But still, the people outside of the church don't look online. So, there's even today, so they're saying, oh, yeah, go talk to her and so on. So I was always talking about, oh, yeah, they believe this, in Missouri. And one day a guy said to me, and I wish I could remember who it was. I don't remember his face or his name, but I know it was a guy. And he says, you should write a book, and you should call it From Mormonism to Mermaidism. And we all laughed. We thought, what a great idea. And then finally I just thought, that's a good idea, but I didn't get this title. You think I would have come to this title right away from what he said, from Mormon to Mermaid, but I didn't, because Mormonism to Mermaidism, that doesn't really work. A long time the working title was A Wave Washes Up. And then when my critique group, one of the gals says, you should rethink that title because it doesn't say anything. No one has a clue what the book's about. But from Mormon to Mermaid, you know what that's about. Just the title. And he gave that to me in a swimming pool. And that's how that came about. But it took 10 years. So I say,
really? I was going to say, how long did this book take to write? 10 years.
50 years in the living, 10 years in the writing. 10 years in the writing. And I don't know, you want me to go into why it took so long? My process?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Well, I'd always considered myself a writer. My father was a writer. He wrote a book. He helped me with
your blood.
Huh?
It's in your blood.
Yeah, I think so. I always got A's in essays and writing. And so, I knew I could write a book. Well, I started writing, and I heard someone say that if you're going to write a memoir, you need to read at least 30 memoirs. Oh, okay. Well, and that actually is excellent advice of whatever genre. Well, to buy all those, that's a lot of money. So I got a library card and I started reading all those books. And then I discovered there's all kinds of books on writing. And I'd taken writing classes at BYU and in high school, and I thought I knew a lot about writing. Oh my gosh, there's a whole world out there that I didn't know about. I didn't even understand active voice. I didn't understand all the different perspectives, point of views. And I was just ravenous, and I just read and whatever I could get on audio and listened to all the time. And a lot of the memoirs that I listened to would be on audio. When I'm doing your hair or cleaning the fridge, I have to be entertained. It's too boring to do some of those things. And
did you write any notes down as you were reading? Like, oh, this author did this. I should do that.
Oh yeah, I Xerox and put it in a folder. I have still all those folders. I did take one class from Foley. It's not Mike Foley. Anyway, I took one class and he gave assignments, and I learned some things in that class that were good. But when I go back and look at those assignments, they did make it into the book, but revamped quite a bit because. And then doing the mermaid theme presented its own challenges and its own rewards. It was more challenging, but you don't want it to be cheesy. But you want it to be impactful, and you want it to hang together, and you have keep it. And then a friend
told. So I would say that you wove a tale.
There you go. Yeah.
About mermaidism.
You start talking like that, yeah. And then to decide what I wanted to be in the book took time, and because it is my story, so I can't say, well, the Mormon Church believes this. No, I'd have to say how it impacted my life, what this meant in our family, what like when my mom passed away from lung cancer after never smoking or being around smoking alive. When he was going, he had a hard time, dating, but he'd go to church dances, and he finally met someone, and they were going to get married. But he knew that Edna would need to get along with my mom, Flora, because in the heavens they're going to be together. The one phrase I considered for the book, but I didn't put in, was that there'd be an eternal threesome. I just left that part out. But my dad was very concerned about that. So he made this wonderful book of my mom as a tribute to her, and I think to handle his grief. And it was called the Flora book, and all the art that she did, she was an artist. And all the art that she did, and she had people write memories of her, and it was about this thick. And he had Edna read it. And after she read it all, he says, "Do you love Flora?" And she says, "Yes." And he says, "Okay, will you marry me?" If you
Wow.
take the doctrine seriously, a man ought to
Yes.
do that. But I don't know any other man that ever, but my dad he was very literal. I guess that's where I get it from. He's very literal. And he knew they better get along. And if Edna didn't love my mom,
Well, and that is a literal part of the doctrine.
absolutely
There,
it is.
And
absolutely.
almost the reverse. There's something called the law of Sarah, where your current wife has to approve
Hmm.
the future wife. But in a
Oh,
way, he was doing it backwards. The
oh, that's
future
right.
wife
I never
had
thought
to
of that.
approve of the past wife. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool, though.
yeah. So it's very doctrinal. It's supported doctrinally, but that was important to him. That was very important to him to be. And yet, because he was a scholar and because he studied the Book of Mormon, and even staying in the Book of Mormon, you start realizing there's some problems here. And he realized some of them, and know just I don't know just what all his beliefs were, but he did say to me once, if they knew what I really believed, they'd excommunicate me. Because he
Wow.
studied, and he passed on I've always been interested in other religions. Even when I was devout, it's just interesting to me. He was interested in religion. And I don't know just what those beliefs were, but he would not stray. He would not, the social pressure, yeah.
And you still have the book of your mother?
Oh, yeah, the floor book. Oh, yeah.
You should
Yeah, I'll look.
scan the pages and put it as a website, because that's an awesome. Everybody should know
That is
about
a good
that.
idea. It should be on a
Yeah.
website, shouldn't it? And then the sad thing is, we don't have a history of my dad. He did all this. He
Except for
was
his
writing
book.
histories of everyone. He started writing the history for Edna's family. He turned out to be quite a scamp, by the way. When he wrote his will, uh, there weren't any other copies of it. And after he passed away, because she was younger, he passed away. She tore up the will and ended up getting most of, the house was supposed to be hers as long as she lived in it and then go to us kids. But she got half plus half of our half. So yeah. So that didn't turn out too well, but I think,
But at least she loves your mother now.
yeah, yeah. I don't know what I think about the hereafter thing, but he was at least,
So after writing the book, you're now in like a writer's group.
yeah. After I had been working on the book for probably I don't know how many years, and I was at the library checking all of these books on writing, and there's this big poster that there's a writers club. And I thought, what? And so I went to the meeting and talked with Bob Isbell, who's now passed away, but he was, I think he was the president then. And he was telling me all the advantages and everything. And, it costs $65 to join. And after that, each year is only $45. And I says, but, can I join? Can I just come to the meetings? Do I have to pay the money? Being a true Mormon frugal woman, right? Picking those pennies. I'll never forget the look on his face. And when I saw the look on his face, I said, yeah, I'm going to join. So I was vice president for a while. I've been been very active in that. But
There must be thousands of local book writers clubs or something like that. Local
well,
authors.
it's a statewide. Our chapter of the High Desert
A
has over
chapter.
100 members, but we're under the umbrella of a state.
It makes sense that the groups would be called chapters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the big pulls to me to join is because they have critique groups. You submit and by then I'd been pretty well finished it. I mean, how many drafts? 20, 30, 40 drafts. I don't know how many drafts I'd done of each chapter and because I just keep going on and on and on, trying to get it better and better. And what do I include? And so the critique group, we shared our writing, and then we'd all critique each other's group. I was very fortunate. The critique group I was in then was incredible. There were about 7 or 8 of us. We would go for hours. I'd get home late at night. but they were just so good, and it still doesn't take the place of professional editing because I had many edits done. But the critique group, for one thing, they're not all Mormons, and so they can look at things and say, well, like one guy, he says, and this is after we almost finished the book, and he says, well, tell me this. Do Mormons celebrate Christmas? And I thought, I've written this whole memoir, and people don't know. I mean, that's kind of a big thing. So I added a chapter about our family going up to Temple Square and the lights and all of that, because, or it wasn't a chapter anyway, a section, because it didn't occur to me that anyone would wonder if we celebrate Christmas.
That's right, but you have to put an asterisk, right? You have to say, we celebrate Christmas, but we're the only ones that know Jesus was born on April 6th. Not really December 25th.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, another thing, a friend told me, a guy that I dated for a while, he also was writing a book, total expose of Mormonism. And I was a little bit put off by his concept of it because mine is not that. Like when they gave me the award, she says I tell the story with grace and humor, and it isn't nasty but it still gets the point across. There's
so
still
true believing Mormons could read your book and not feel slighted.
Well, I talk about the doctrinal problem. So if they think about it, I think they might have a problem. But I would no, But what this friend told me, he says you have to put footnotes. You have to document every claim you make, because otherwise people will say, "Oh, well, your dad told you this, or you heard that at school," and that's not really true. It's not really true. So I started footnoting, because you can footnote, the scriptures, the Mormon scriptures and the prophets, just the good sources. But then one editor told me, he says, you can't do that in a memoir. He says, you either have to give up the mermaid theme or give up the footnotes. I thought, I can't do that. I'm not giving up. I have to document it. So what I did, I have two appendix in the back, and everything, there's just numbers, and then you go to the back. And a lot of people really like to read all that. Some people don't, but it's there in the back, and I document every damn claim I make. Every time, about polygamy, about everything is documented by the prophets and by the scriptures as much as I can. But why we believe this, why we live the way we did.
So your book is the first mermaid book that has footnotes.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know of any other memoir that has footnotes, because I guess you're not supposed to do that. But it's my book. I'll do what I want, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And when I had it edited many times, and every time, one of the first editors, he told me.
And this is from a publisher's editor, a publishing house?
No, it's indie press.
Okay.
This was all indie press. The first publisher was Dog Ear Publishing, but that I paid for that. And one reason I did pay for it is because they offered this real fantastic special. It was still like $2,500, but the editing was supposed to be really incredible. And I said, I want a sample of her editing. So they gave me a sample. I think this is good. So Alexa's going to talk. Sorry, who was it? So I really wanted her to edit the book. And when I got the edit back, it was a good edit, but, because I paid for the super duper, I don't remember what it's called, but the ultimate Cadillac edit, because I wanted this to be the best it can be. After 10 years of my work, I wanted someone, anything. And it was good, but it wasn't the edit. I said, well, this doesn't look like what Stephanie did on the other one. And I was talking to a gal about it. First, I wrote 7 questions and said, have her answer these, and she did. And I said, but this doesn't seem like that. She said, oh, no, she didn't do that kind of edit. You didn't get the Cadillac edit. You got the Honda edit. What? And so they said, well, you got, and I says, no, that's what he went back and re-edited the entire manuscript. And it was only supposed to be 60,000 words for what I paid for. But my footnotes were at the end of it. I submitted the whole thing. The footnotes were out of the range of what I was paid for. She edited the footnotes. Thank goodness she did, because footnotes are a bug to edit. All the stupid rules. It's not the content, it's the formatting, the presentation of the footnotes. Oh my gosh, she really cleaned that up. And she caught things that she said, well, you say this happened in this year, but here you say this happened. How that the years don't quite match. They were in different chapters, and she would catch these, and even some, grammatical. Not many, but there are little teeny things that can get by you. Technical little things. She was a great editor, and she's the one that that recommended me for the award of literary excellence.
That's amazing. Can we go over just the chapters? Because I love your chapters in this book. They definitely fit the theme and resonate.
Oh, yes. Definitely. Okay, I won't tell them all, but yeah, I spent a lot of time getting the chapter headed. The first one was Hook, Line, and Thinker. Damn That Equality, and that's spelled D-A-M. Sand Dollars, Anchors of Faith. BYU was a world of blue and white. Fish Story, in parentheses, the one that should get away. Kicking Up Your Tail, Raging Waters, Rhythm and Blues, Moonlight on Mermaid Tales. That's about patriarchal blessings. My daughters had some interesting. Sinkhole of Faith, or as a friend said to me recently, someone must have told you that truth matters. Swinging on a Star. And of course, the chapter on sex. What do you think I call that? Wet.
Very succinct.
Yeah, I mean that's it, right? It has to fit in somehow. I couldn't figure out the one on Mormon missionaries. I thought, what am I going to call this one? But it's Fishers of Men. Of course, it'd be Fishers of Men, right? But it took a while. When I left the church, that's bailing. The multifaceted beauty of a coral reef, prying open the oyster shell, waving from the shoreline, undercurrent of strength. But those are, so I kept that through every chapter, and every concluding chapter. The last paragraph ties the chapter into the mermaid theme somehow, which really took a lot of work to try to make that literally.
Yeah, so we'll include a link to Amazon, right? They can get it on Amazon still.
Oh yeah.
And
it's on Amazon. Yeah.
Have you done any other?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Have you done any other?
Well, I was going to say, I want to know, does she have like one chapter in there that just is your favorite? Because I'm sure writers have chapters that they absolutely fall.
Yeah, there's one, because it's the most outrageous. And it's the one that I think has the best line in it of the whole book. And one of the reviews says, the best line in the whole book is, yeah, that's the best line in the whole book. And it was when what do you want me to tell you about it at all? Sure.
Yes. Well, give us a little teaser, because then they'll want to know more,
Okay. Well, I was married to an Italian husband, and he started saying he wanted to do this or do that. So what? I never heard of oral sex. What are you talking about? I was really shocked. But the problem was, am I supposed to do that? Would the Lord want me to do that? Because I was a really good, I was trying to be a really good wife. So what does a good Mormon wife do if she has a question like that? Who does she ask?
Bishop.
Not her girlfriend. Who?
The bishop.
Absolutely, the bishop. You go to the bishop to get. That's what I did. I was so embarrassed.
You went to the bishop? Oh my goodness.
For sex advice.
Yeah, for sex advice. Well, how do I know then? How else do I find out? I've asked my girlfriend, And
because the bishop is the only one that knows that if you can do that in the bedroom and still make it to heaven.
Well, and that's definitely during the dogma of probably when they were talking about even, this, we'll get maybe a little explicit, the oral factor not being, yeah, the oral factor not even being allowed amongst married couples. So there were certain things married couples should not be doing in the bedroom.
In the early 80s, I think.
So what he told me was, his advice was, he considered, I was so embarrassed to finally ask him, but does God frown on oral sex? And I like the word frown because it involves the mouth. Anyways, does God frown on oral sex? I worked on that line a long time. And he finally said, and I really love this man, by the way, he was really a sweet, trying to do the best job he could. He wasn't one of these arrogant, no, he was a really sweet man, Bishop Snow. And he says, well, it's important to please your husband. And I thought, oh, then it's okay. And then he said, but you should be praying that he doesn't desire that. So he can do it, it's fine, and I can allow it. But if he's doing it, I can't enjoy it, for one thing, because I'm supposed to be praying that he doesn't want to do it. So what's wrong with me that God hasn't answered my prayers? I'm not being a good enough wife. I'm not keeping the house clean enough. What is it I'm not doing? Did I not do enough laundry, whatever? Bake enough homemade bread? Because he still wants it. I can never enjoy
and what
that.
does the answer to that prayer look like? An angel and a flaming sword coming down and saying, yes.
Well, that predicament is what you don't want me to say it. Let people read it, but that gives the best line in the whole book. Is in that chapter of that well, maybe I should tell you. It's such a good line. I'm just dying to tell you.
Plus, that happiness is the object and design of man's existence, and pretty much pleasing your man in bed fills that.
Yeah, but when you're supposed to, it was all up to me. It was all up to me to on the accountability. So the sin's still on me. If there's sin, it's on me because I wasn't good enough to get him not to want it. So, but he's okay. He's okay.
Yeah, what are you supposed to do? Bite every now and then so he doesn't want it anymore?
Well, I think you're absolutely right with that, because the pressure of being satisfied in the relationship, either in the bedroom or out of the bedroom, is put on the woman. So to have a man satisfied at home in either of those places, it is on your shoulders to be not only in the kitchen. Yes, you got to be on hands and knees at all times doing something. I don't know, cleaning a floor or something else. But that's so fascinating to put it in that context, for sure. Because
it's probably the most, I think, one of the most dynamic chapters. Although the chapter on tithing, people have told me that's their favorite chapter, which is interesting. The way that I've written that. But that to me was the most telling of what it was like to be a Mormon woman. But that was only because I was so devout. I was trying to be so good. I don't think most people would have done that. Most people would have been like my dad and asked, do you love Flora? Okay, then I'll marry you. And will you marry me? Most people, not many women, I don't think, would go to the bishop. But the ones of us who really, really believed and really, really tried and really, really knew that our eternal salvation, everything depended on what we do here. If you really believe that and take that seriously, my God, that's what you do. You ask the bishop, how could I jeopardize that? How can I jeopardize that? So I asked the bishop. And that didn't really help. That was a real complication. Yeah.
I just want to know if Bishop Snow wrote that in his diary after that.
Which what?
After that interview you had with him.
Oh, I doubt it.
It went down in her permanent record, Jean. Okay, he's making
Flag.
notes in her
She
file.
wanted to know.
There's a flag in her file.
If it
Yeah.
would have, see, I probably got stars because I was so good that I would make sure I was okay. They should have
That's
given
right.
me, put me in the right column, right?
That's
Mhm.
right.
Oh, but wait, only if it works. Only if I prayed enough that he didn't want it. So
Yeah, it's really a strange
wait and see.
place to be. What a bizarre concept.
I think
That's why your friends all said you should write a book, because you were telling them stories like that about Mormonism.
well, yeah,
those are the stories people do want to know. Those are interesting.
Huh?
Yeah. I said, I think those are the stories people want to know, because those are what make Mormonism so interesting, is how we take the
Yeah.
religion and the dogma and then put it on our shoulders and our mantle and make it about every decision in our life, from how we wake up in the morning till how we go to bed at night. It's real. It's so real.
And it's
That's
so
right.
important, and you're so overwhelmed, and you can never. I mean, everyone says this in every interview that you've given. I'm sure people are always saying this. You can never measure up. You can never be enough. I think women may say that more than men, but even men, I'm sure, have the same problem because you're not God yet. What's wrong with you, Gene? On men, after Book of Mormon the musical came out, and they made fun of getting their own planet, they came out and said, "Oh no, they don't get your own planet." What? Oh, we're tonight. Don't get their own planet. But you
You're
have
going
to
to have
get
to
your
do
own
a.
planet. If you can become God, you have to have a planet. Come on, make some sense. Of course, you
You're
get
going to have to erase that footnote from in your next edition. So anyway, thanks Lorelei for everything, and we
It
want
sounds
everybody
wonderful. Everyone read this book.
everybody go get this book right now. And I know that Rebecca and Landon also interviewed you,
Yeah,
and
they did.
we'll include that because
Oh,
we
okay.
honor all creators, and we want people to see,
Yeah.
because you might have told them something that you didn't tell us, not because
yeah.
you were withholding, but because different things come out on different
Yeah,
conversations.
it was funny. Landon made the comment that he thought maybe the book was more for women than men, and yet everything that he commented on, because he had read the book, was about the chapter on sex. So I said, I think men will really enjoy this too, because there's juicy stuff in it.
Yeah, I recall Landon had to reread that. Landon had to reread that chapter a few times, I believe, over the next week or so.
Yeah, he had obviously very familiar with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot, everybody. Like and subscribe. Thanks, Lorelei, for living your life and telling us about it. That is what is interesting. I've found almost everybody has a story to tell, and yours is a prime example of someone who's put it down for posterity. We'll say. I won't say it has gone down for posterity, but anyway, that's that one chapter. Read the book.
Yeah, see, it's for men too. They remember these things.
They do. Every man is going to go out and buy this book.
There you go.
There you
And
go.
so everybody have a great rest of the year. Thanksgiving's coming up. Everybody have fun.
How do I share this link if I want to? How do I share your link? Just put it on my Facebook page?
So yeah, so when I'm going to try to put it out tomorrow, and
He'll send you the link of the
I'll
final
send you
interview,
the link,
and you can post
and then
it
you
to
can
anyone
share
you want.
that link to all your friends,
Yeah, to the masses that are waiting.
to the masses. Hopefully you get 4 or 5 more book sales, or 40 or 50 or whatever it is.
There you go.
All right,
Okay, thanks so much. Thanks, Debbie. I appreciate it. Get to know you a little bit more, and thank you, Jean, for inviting me to this. That's been fun. I've had a good time. This is really good.
Yes. Now I'm going to buy this book. I love a good book, so
I think you'll like it. Oh, let me say just one thing. Wait,
Alrighty.
I have to say one more thing. I told you about the first award. I also got 2 other awards. One I was a runner-up, and one I was a gold winner. But this last year, I got the ultimate award of all time, Winning Writers. You probably heard of Winning Writers. They have this humongous contest. I was first in memoir, first place in memoir. I got $1,000. I have the certificate up here by my computer with a check underneath it.
Wow.
And it was a really big deal. And so you can go winning writers. And for last year, I was the #1 in the first prize in memoir. So
there you go. So that's on a website somewhere. Send
It is.
me that link. You might have done it already. I can't
No,
remember.
I didn't. I haven't.
And then I'll include that.
Great.
And everybody learn what the description of the video. Underneath the video is a description. If you click more, then you'll see all the things that I add on. Sometimes I wonder if people know that what it's in the description means, because sometimes I forget to include something after I have said, oh, it's in the description. It's going to have this
You
link.
just haven't been praying hard enough to do that perfectly, Gene. That's
And nobody complains. Nobody says, where's the link? So I don't know if people don't look or not. But anyway,
okay.
thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.